Hello. This is Real Life, Real Talk. I'm Summer.
I'm Dee.
I'm Marissa.
And I'm Kayla.
And today's episode is going to be about a topic that so many men and women suffer through in secret, but often they're just too embarrassed to talk about it. If you have ever been so completely blindsided by a breakup that you felt like you completely lost touch with reality, you couldn't sleep, you couldn't eat, I want you to know that you are not crazy and you are not weak. You have survived what psychologists call an avoidant discard. Now, in a normal relationship breakup, there is usually a slow, visible fall apart. You normally can see it coming, but an avoidant discard is a cold, sudden, instantaneous cutting of ties that gives your nervous system a massive case of emotional whiplash. Now, I would really like to just share with you guys a quick story about why I feel like it's just super relevant to the topic that we are going to talk about today. So I have mentioned on this podcast before that there was a guy I was dating about like 4 years ago. That was my really long-term relationship. When that relationship had ended, things got really, really bad for me. But one thing about that relationship was he was something called a fearful avoidant, and I myself was called something a fearful avoidant, which is what we are going to be getting into today. And really what that is a person who really, really craves closeness, but also fears it at the same time. So when you have two of those people in the same relationship, it is chaotic. It is chaos and it is toxic. And there were like both of us just constantly discarding each other. And the very last discard, which was from him, that is what completely broke me. And my body went into complete shock after that. And to me, it made sense at the time because that relationship was 2 years. Now, you guys also know that there was a new guy that I have been talking to. I've mentioned him on this podcast a couple of times. And I just want to start by saying we are no, excuse me, my voice is going to go tonight because I've been talking all day, so bear with me. But this gentleman and I are no longer talking. And so, excuse me, I'm going to go into a little bit about just that story, okay? And I first just want to start off by saying that I have like no ill will towards this human at all. I still obviously have a lot of love for him. I still care about him deeply. And I just, really want to make it clear that, I pray for this guy. I bless him. And yes, I've been hurt. And yes, we're going to go into the personality type that he is today. But at the end of the day, you know what? We're all dealing with our own things, and we are hurting people. And I see that and I get that. And I have so much compassion for that. So at the beginning of, talking to this guy, we had met online, and for about 2 months he was really highly pursuing me, and I had my walls up, my guard was up, and I was being very, very cautious because I did not want to get hurt. And during this 2 months he was very, very gentle and kind and just very consistent, and there was a lot of talk about like marriage and kids and just all these really amazing things that obviously I was really looking for in a partner. And so as the pursuit went on, my walls started to come down, and he ended up coming to Canada to meet me. We're going to call this guy Jay, okay? That's what his name is going to be, is Jay. And so Jay comes to Canada. He meets me. We spend 4 days with each other, and I thought that it was just a really beautiful experience. I felt like my feelings for him had really, really grown. And, he met my family, which like I don't take lightly. Like that's a big thing for a guy to meet my family. And they really, really liked him, and just all the things, had many, many great things to say about him. And, they had liked him so much that they even invited him to come back and go hunting and just all these things. And so really where I'm going with this is like those 4 days, there was no thought in my mind that like this guy was literally about to like just kind of push me to the side.
Well, you said to me a lot of times throughout, the 2 months of talking and stuff, like, I just love how safe I feel with him. I just feel so safe with him.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, my walls were coming down, and it was like I had every reason to believe he was safe. He didn't give me any reason to believe differently. Mm-hmm. And I would like to call myself a secure person and very stable person now. And, I know that the right person will see that and love that. And I genuinely thought that he saw that and he loved that. But you know what? Again, I don't have hate towards this person. It's like he's hurting. And it's an attachment style that is very confusing and illogical, which is what we're going to go into today. But so when he left and went back home, things were still really normal. Like, it was like nothing had really changed. We're still texting. We're still talking about like the future and missing each other and all these things. And then anyways, 24 hours after he had left, I decided to tell him that I really enjoyed our weekend and my feelings have really grown for you. So I'm just wondering where your head is at. And basically, 24 hours later, this is where like the whiplash comes in. He says to me that he has cold feet, that he's unsure, that there might be something wrong, that he doesn't feel we're long-term compatible, and that there is something better out there. And so you could only imagine like the whiplash, like the break in that. And at the same time, I haven't told you guys this yet, but at the same time, I'm sitting here receiving these text messages from him. I have this box sitting by my door, and in it is this like custom made coffee cup that I got him with like some really high quality coffee to go with it, and just this like handmade card that pretty much was just like blessing him and praying over him and just telling him how grateful I was and like just complimenting a lot of these things about him. And I was literally ready to send it to him the next day for his birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. And these were the messages. And again, I'm not saying this with any ill will. There isn't, because a hurt person, only hurt people hurt people. But I'm just saying this to like show you, if you've experienced this, like, you are not crazy. Like, this is a very real thing that happens to people. It is called the avoidant discard, and it hurts. It really, really breaks you. And so why don't we talk a little bit about what that is like? It is a cold, sudden cutting of ties, and it creates a very real type of trauma that psychologists have studied called relational PTSD. And before I talk about the symptoms of that, I just want to say I know Summer is going to be able to relate to this a lot. And I say that because, again, this is something that so many of us go through. And at the time, it just doesn't make sense. And what I'm really hoping to do with this information that I'm about to share is make it make sense if you're going through it, if you have gone through it, or maybe you're the one who has unintentionally caused this. So when we talk about relational PTSD from a sudden discard, it really isn't an exaggeration. It triggers the exact same trauma symptoms in the human brain and body that soldiers experience returning from a war zone. It is studied. Psychologists have seen this happen. It is a sudden psychological shock that completely rewrites your brain chemistry, and it throws your nervous system into survival mode, where you are constantly scanning your environment for danger. So let's read a checklist of symptoms, and I hope that, by reading this, that you don't feel broken because of it if you have experienced, but, I want to read it so you can feel fully seen and heard and know that you're not alone in this. The first symptom is dissociation. So you feel like you aren't fully in reality. You feel like you're out of your own body. You're numb. And it's pretty much like you're unable to feel the world around you. Then comes the intrusive thoughts, which is a non-stop loop replaying in your mind. It suffocates your breathing. It brings waves of intense self-blame and a heavy feeling of core defectiveness. You find yourself hyper-analyzing the relationship timeline over and over, trying frantically to decode everything that went wrong and what you did wrong. Your brain falls into obsessive reassurance thinking, where it fixates entirely on when or if this person will come back, while at the same time catastrophizing the future, right? So you begin to tell yourself the lie that you can't let people in and people aren't safe. And this was totally me after this. Was like, I will never let another human in again, and this is why I don't let people in, which isn't healthy, by the way. I know that, but that's what this kind of trauma tricks your body into believing. Okay, the next one is your body literally starts to physically rebel. You experience hyperarousal. So your nervous system pretty much is on high alert, like all the time, looking for threats. It feels like you are constantly in danger. For me, it was waking up at 3 a.m. with stomach jolts, like this weight on my chest. And I would wake up and it was like I was like shivering and sweating and just like crying, and it didn't make sense to me because I'm like, man, it was 2 months. But when I would wake up, it was like, oh, I'm so sad. Like, oh wait, I'm not okay right now. I'm so sad.
Mm-hmm. This is reality. That's like one of the harshest things to go through. It's like you're just sleeping and then you wake up and you're like, oh no, that was a nightmare. Like, this is my real life. Like, this person is no longer in my life. And it can just be so shocking when everything is like 100%, you think it's all good, and then all of a sudden, like, that really messes someone up.
And it really does throw your body into that shock of like, you're right, like, oh, this person's gone. Like, it was like there was a safety.
There was no reason, and when there was no reason to believe that, like, no signs, no
like, at
nothing.
all. Excuse me again. The next one would be like severe insomnia. For me, I didn't sleep for the first 48 hours. Like, I literally couldn't. It was like I was dissociating so bad. And it just felt so numb that I couldn't sleep, which is so wild to me that this happened. Like, it just is so crazy to think that a week ago, this is what I was experiencing. And then after that, it was like short, rapid periods of sleep, but it was never like a full-on sleep. It was just always waking up in the middle of the night with like those stomach jolts. And then, of course, lack of appetite. I think that's a huge one for people in all types of breakups. But, you know, when there's a sudden shock to your system, it's like all hunger hormones are gone. Your body is completely hijacked by like adrenaline and cortisol. And you're just pretty much like, you're numb, you're anxious, you know, and it's a difficult place to be. So for me, you know, okay, and this is what I really want to comment on here, is during this time, like, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, but I had this amazing community around me. I had Summer, who was getting me to come to her house to eat with her. I had Pete, who was making me eat with them, and just like the love that I felt and the care, and, you know, a lot of that really helped me stop catastrophizing, like those lies I was telling myself, right? That people can't be trusted. Nobody will ever be able to love me. I will never be enough for anybody. Mm-hmm. I was literally thinking these things to myself.
I think one of the most dangerous things when you're going through a breakup is to isolate yourself. Mm-hmm. It's natural to want to, but yeah, I think maybe for the first day, like, just being in a dark room and just feeling, you know, the feelings and stuff, you don't want to be around anyone. But after the first little bit, you need to force yourself to go and be in community. Mm-hmm. And just surround yourself with people that you love and
who can, like,
speak truth into your life. Yeah, because the enemy's voice gets so loud when you're alone and in so much pain, and you start to believe that. And for you, Dee, when you, in the beginning of it, it was like the things that you were saying, I just had to, like, no, like, that is not true. This is from the enemy. Like, and I've been in that place where if I didn't have people that loved me, that were speaking truth into me, I would have just went down that rabbit hole and believed those things and aligned my actions with how I felt about those things. So I think it's good to surround yourself with people that you love and just get out and do things, 'cause you're not going to feel like you want to, but you have to.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I'm so appreciative, like, you guys, like, it's just so crazy to think that the last time I went through a very similar heartbreak like this, I drank and I numbed because I felt like I couldn't go through it. And now it's like I just have so much support. Like, even your dad, you know, he came up to me on Sunday and I was getting dessert at the dessert table and he put his head on my shoulder and he's like, I'm sorry. And I just started bawling my eyes out. You know, but it's like, I mean, same with Pete. Pete literally sat there and just held me and cried with me. And he looked at me and he was like, you are a precious child of God, and God has a plan for you. And it's like, you know, your dad just spoke so much wisdom into my life. Pete speaking wisdom into my life. You guys, Summer, like, there's just such an amazing group of people. And for me, I don't know, I want to say it's been like almost 2 weeks now since this happened. I'm definitely not in like those stages anymore that I just wrote about, but they were very real for me. But I am at a much better, more secure place now, and just so grateful for God. And it's like, yeah, you know what, this hurt, but like, I don't blame him. I don't hate him. And this has just grown my relationship so much with God and the people around me.
Yeah, and to have people praying for you too, like even for you to reach out and say like, can you please pray for me? Like, that's what I was doing for you. I might have not been there to help you eat, but I was here praying, you know, truth over your life, and that he would really meet you in the place that you were. So
So sweet. Thank you. Yeah, see, it's this.
There's
it's
so
like,
much power in that.
There's so much power, because it's like, and it works. I didn't think that like less than 2 weeks later I would be sitting here just like, okay. It's really weird, and obviously it still hurts,
of course,
but like not like it was. And I'm just so much more clear on going forward. The right person for me, I'm so much more clear on my relationship with God, my relationship with the people around me. And it's like, you know what, sometimes, I think actually oftentimes, the pain is the passage. Yeah. And you got to go through the passage. You can't just like numb it and try to get to the other side. You got to go through it. Okay, so why don't we talk about, so why does this happen to the body? What is actually happening in the body when you are going through symptoms like this? So it really is a physical withdrawal, because the high intensity pursuit of an avoidant partner, during the high intensity pursuit of an avoidant partner, your brain and body are flooded with massive amounts of dopamine, which is the chemical of the high chase, and oxytocin, which is your biological bonding hormone. When that person suddenly cuts you off, they instantly stop the supply. So it is basically like an addict going through withdrawal. Your body plunges into a severe chemical withdrawal, and it is a physical car crash, and your body is simply trying to survive the shock. Okay, so now, here comes the good stuff. Let's go into the fearful avoidant blueprint. So to truly heal from this type of whiplash, we have to look past our own pain and look with immense compassion into the internal blueprint of the person who did run away. We have to understand the attachment style known as fearful avoidance or disorganized attachment. So what is an attachment style? It is our own rule book for what love means. It's how we accept vulnerability, how we accept love, and how we give that as well. And all of our attachment styles develop in childhood, okay? It is the exact lens in which we view the world through, especially romantic relationships. And there are 4 different attachment styles. So there is secure, anxious, dismissive, and fearful. Secure attachment is where you don't really have wounds that run the show. Like, you don't fear abandonment or rejection. You don't highly need independence and solitude and autonomy. Like, you like those things, but it's not like a desperate need of yours. And you're just able to face that conflict head on. You have good communication patterns, and you feel safe in relationships, and you trust. And then you have the anxious person, where they have like deep-rooted wounds of abandonment and rejection. They often come off as like very, very needy and clingy, need a lot of emotional closeness and reassurance, validation, and just all those things. And then you have the dismissive, which is very cold. They have the high needs of autonomy and independence. Closeness is a huge threat to them. And yeah, they don't like communication. They actually like really fear conflict. They are very hard people to get to know because they are kind of like emotionally flat. And then you have the fearful, which is a mix of anxious and dismissive. So for a fearful avoidant, their rule book was written in pain. Imagine growing up in a childhood home where the people who were supposed to keep you safe were very unpredictable. Sometimes showing emotions and vulnerability was safe, but other times it was terrifying and dangerous. Often their basic emotional needs were met with neglect, right? They were told to not feel it or just get over it, Or they had a controlling, dismissing parent who made them feel that their emotions were an inconvenient problem. So basically this child experienced like bizarre behavior, and it could have been like their survival needs weren't getting met and then experiencing bizarre behavior, or their emotional needs weren't getting met and they experienced bizarre behavior, right? So maybe emotion is safe one day, we can talk, and the next day it's like the parent is cold. There's nothing there. And for a child to grow up in this environment, it really creates a tragic lesson because it dismisses their emotional self, and it tells them that God created them to be defective. Naturally, this is what will happen if part of who God made us to be is neglected. They grow up deeply craving closeness because they are human, but the moment they get close to someone, their childhood blueprint screams that they will always fail, be rejected, be trapped, or be controlled. They subconsciously learn to view love as both a beautiful thing and a dangerous trap, all at the same time. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. It's very fascinating how childhood literally, like, you'll have either like one of 4 attachment styles, and how childhood wires that. That's why it's so important. You know, in the Bible it talks about, you know, obviously family being super important, and the man and the woman, and God, the man, the woman, and then from there are the kids. And I think family is not they're not valuing that in today's society, and it's being stripped apart, and you see so many more of these issues because we don't have the structure that God wanted. And I mean, there's always going to be, no one's perfect and stuff, but when you have that consistent love from both parents, you most times would have a secure attachment style. And
and what is really interesting about the attachment styles is they can be reconditioned over time too. So depending on the relationships you get yourselves into in adolescence and adulthood, they can absolutely be reconditioned. And you know, the greatest part about it is you actually can become secure as well. You don't have to live in the loops. You don't have to live in the patterns. All of it can be healed.
It can. Yeah, you can rewire your subconscious thinking and all that. But it's not easy. It's not. It's literally every day just, taking your thoughts captive and changing the narrative and using scripture too to do that. Like, I find for myself, I have an anxious attachment style, and I would say that I've done a lot of work on it, and I'm much, much better. But if I'm not consistently working on it and journaling and stopping to be like, okay, I can react a few different ways. How do I actually want to react? Like, what's the best way? What would God want me to do? It's a constant work.
It's constant. And this is why, and we'll get into this, but this is why people who are more avoidant, whether they're dismissive or fearful, they avoid it. Because it means they actually have to look at themselves, and they have to feel things and go through things. And this is super scary to somebody who's learned, like, it's not safe. That's not safe for them to feel.
Which is so sad.
It is.
It just, you feel so bad, because it's, if they could do that, they can do that. They're capable of it. But if they did do that, like, how much more beautiful their life would be, and relationships, and we're here to love and feel love. And it's hard.
Sad. That's where my heart is right now. Like, I'm sad. I'm, because this was my attachment style, and I obviously healed it. Well, I'll talk a little bit about how I did that, but I get it. This is such a traumatizing experience, not just for the person on the other side. Like, yes, that person is hurt, but for the person experiencing this themselves, it's like they're constantly breaking their own heart, but they don't know how to stop. It's like they want it so badly, but it's like, my fear overrides that, and I don't know how to stop letting the fear override that. And that makes my heart just hurts to think about how many people live like this.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So this whole thing creates a split internal wiring for the fearful avoidant. They have a set of unconscious beliefs that run their entire adult lives and relationships. Okay, these are called the wounds, and they are their driving forces, and they're both a mix of anxious and avoidant, like we've been talking about. And by the way, we all have wounds that run the show. Some are just more damaging than others. So deep down on a very unconscious level, these are what their wounds are. Okay, they're their deeply ingrained beliefs. The first one is I'm unlovable. This is like really what runs the entire show for them. I'm bad. I'm defective. Right? I can't do things right. I'm stupid. I'm trapped and stuck. And then they also have deep wounds of abandonment and rejection, right? I will be abandoned and I will be rejected. And so you can see where, yes, they have abandonment and rejection wounds, but they're also like, but wait, I'm trapped and stuck in relationships. So it can be a very, very hard attachment style to deal with and work with because of this. They also suffer from incredibly low self-esteem, and shame and guilt tend to be their driving emotions in life. If the person with this attachment style does not allow Jesus to heal the wounds or actively take steps on their own to work on them, they will continue to base all of their thoughts, their actions, their reactions, and choices in romantic relationships off of them. So when we look at an attachment style such as fearful avoidance through this lens, we do stop seeing the villain. We start seeing a deeply hurting person whose nervous system is trapped in a house of mirrors. They want to love you with all their heart, but the closer they get to you, the louder their internal alarm system screams, danger, closeness is not safe, I need to run to get back to safety. And because their internal wiring is so deeply divided, a fearful avoidant essentially operates with two completely different personalities. They are the chaser and the runner. And both sides are entirely real to them and to you. And I just want to confirm that because I think a lot of times in relationships, you know, if we're dealing with somebody who's like a narcissist or has like a personality disorder, we'll see gaslighting and we'll see future faking and love bombing and all those things. But that's not what this is. This person genuinely meant all the things they did and all the things that they said. It wasn't fake. It was very, very real. But they can usually only inhabit one of these personalities at a time, right? So they're switching between kind of the chaser and the runner, and it's like a switch that goes off. They can go back and forth whenever they're feeling triggered or panic or whatever it is. This does make the fearful avoidant the hardest attachment style to navigate because it does cause so much internal confusion, right? Anxious attachment is just like anxiety. You can spot that, you know that. Dismissive avoidance is just avoidance. That's very easy to also spot and experience and see and stuff. But a fearful avoidant is a painful combination of both. One moment they are deeply, beautifully in love, and the next moment they are completely gone. And because they must act in accordance with their unconscious wounds, they fight for emotional distance instead of fighting for the relationship. When true vulnerability, intimacy, accountability, and commitment show up, their nervous system becomes entirely overwhelmed with closeness. And tragically, their blueprint makes them feel that it is safer to lose a good, secure, stable, and loving partner than to do the hard work of looking inward at the wounds that they are running from and that are running the show. So if you're listening to this and you are resonating like, hey man, I've been through this before, like I know how this goes, I just want you to know that yes, they did like you, they did adore you, it wasn't anything that you did wrong, but they simply did not possess the emotional capacity to stay stable when their survival brain went into panic mode. Okay, when secure, healthy love feels boring or triggers their fear of settling down, they feel trapped and stuck, yet they are simultaneously terrified to let you go. So they subconsciously sabotage the connection. They act out until they make their own worst fears come true, pushing you away so they don't give you a choice but to leave, and then ultimately reconfirming their childhood wound that everyone leaves them anyway and they will be rejected and abandoned. They will subconsciously test you, right? They'll say to themselves, if they really love me, they will choose me and prove I'm not good enough. While their fear simultaneously roots for you to fail the test so they can run back to isolation and safety. Hey, there were lyrics that actually came up on my playlist the other day. It was so funny that this song popped up. I don't even remember having this song there, but anyways, I'm listening to these lyrics and I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, how heartbreaking is this? And because it just brought me back to like, man, I remember just being this person in the relationship and hurting people like this. Okay. And this is what the lyrics said. My arms are open, but then I get close and I push you out. Then I will pull you back in like an ocean, and I want to be all in, but I'm bad with emotion. Maybe because my heart was made to be broken. And I think that's just like the saddest truth about this attachment style, because they are constantly running from the one thing they want the most, hurting themselves in the process, and obviously the person involved. And then, of course, the pattern is just going to repeat until they do the work. So maybe after going through some of this, you are realizing right now that you are the one picking up the pieces of a discard. Or maybe you are recognizing yourself as the runner. But one thing I want you to know is that whatever side you are on, you are not doomed, you are not stuck, you absolutely can heal. Okay, so why don't we now start going into like the actual psychology of this attachment style? We're going to look at 3 distinct phases a fearful avoidance brain goes through in a relationship, starting with phase 1, which is idealization. Okay, during the chase and the high pursuit, they are operating entirely out of a fantasy. In their mind, they tell themselves things like, they are amazing, they are perfect, I finally feel safe. They become completely obsessed, thinking about you all day long and even convincing themselves that you are way out of their league. They look at you and wonder how on earth you are single, and they feel shocked at how consistent and present they are even being with you. They chase so intensely because they are addicted to the dopamine hit of the unrealistic pursuit. Winning a perfect person makes them feel temporarily worthy and alive, but they only chase because at a distance there is no emotional consequence yet. They feel safe from their fear of intimacy, and that freedom allows them to pour out grand gestures, and it creates obviously a rapid bond. It's also a way to keep themselves safe, right? So they're not trapped and not rejected. It keeps them out of a committed relationship that requires real emotion and intimacy, because the perfect person does not exist. It is a mechanism that their brain uses to keep them safe, even if they're not aware of it. And this always happens on an unconscious level. Okay, but the one thing about the perfect person is it is a dangerous, dangerous trap, because Jesus is the only perfect person and will forever be the only perfect one. And when they put you on a pedestal that only God is meant to occupy, the relationship is built on a countdown. People are imperfect, and the second you show real human traits, the fantasy crumbles. They begin to wonder things like, well, why is this person who I set to be my goal not doing everything right? And why is everything going wrong? And one thing that I've really realized through all of this is a person can never fill the void or heal the insecurities that only Jesus can. Mm-hmm. And putting someone in the place of Jesus is a way to unconsciously stop connection and intimacy from happening in their lives, even though they might really want it. I think that's huge. Nobody can replace what Jesus can. Totally. And if you're looking for a person to fill the void, that will never happen. It has to be Jesus filling that void.
And that's why you need to be equally yoked.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, okay, in the idealization stage, you begin to let your walls down and you begin to trust them. You begin to let them in, things become closer, and now there is real emotional threat for the fearful avoidant, which leads me directly into phase 2, which is deactivation. The exact moment you start to trust them and let your guard down, their nervous system goes into an involuntary state of panic, and they begin to flip the script. It is an immediate emotional shutdown where they suddenly feel cold, numb, and intensely annoyed by your presence. The deactivation stage is what gives them their why. Okay, internally, their brain begins to panic. They think, gosh, they're amazing, but I can't keep this up. They're probably going to hurt me. Maybe I don't like them as much as I thought. They want more than I can give. The spark is gone. I just can't force it. We are just too different. Our lifestyles don't match. I can't give them what they want. There is a better out there for me, and I'm unsure of this person. Now, what they're really struggling with behind these cruel deactivation thoughts are their own deep, unhealed wounds. They struggle to express their true needs because most of the time they have spent a lifetime avoiding them. They always carry a lingering feeling that something is missing, when in reality, they are simply broken and terrified of love. So what is actually driving those cold, deactivating thoughts in a fearful avoidance mind? Well, it is a survival strategy. Their subconscious is frantically telling them, if I leave first, I can't be rejected. If I create distance, I can stop the shame. If I can convince myself it's just not right, I don't have to face how counterphobic and terrified I am. I want this love so badly, but if I stay, I know I will be abandoned. And when a relationship becomes real and true closeness and real accountability are required, you do suddenly become a giant mirror to them, as we can see. And tragically, all they can see in that mirror are their own shortcomings. Now, they can show up as a secure dream partner. Like, they can be like the person for you until their nervous system becomes activated and intimacy now carries an emotional risk. And when that risk appears, their mind misinterprets internal panic as incompatibility or irritation. They fall into the grass is greener trap, where they convince themselves that there is something better out there, rather than realizing they are just experiencing an intense unconscious fear of emotional safety that is showing up as panic. Their brain completely misreads its own internal alarm system, and it takes a deeply rooted childhood survival response and mislabels it as a relationship problem. This panic creates a false gut feeling that something is wrong with the connection, just so they can run back to the safety of isolation. They begin to tell themselves things like, since I feel anxious, this must be the wrong relationship. I'm feeling scared, so it must be because I lost attraction. If I really like them, I wouldn't feel trapped and want to leave. And of course, they'll say things like the right relationship should feel effortless all the time. So really what is happening is their brain is frantically looking at every single reason why you are not right for them, but they aren't actually looking for a better partner. They are looking for excuses to turn you into the wrong partner before they get hurt. And they will begin to pick up.
They have to be too vulnerable too before they have to actually show their real selves.
Yeah.
Which, they're very scared of.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because they just keep repeating it with different people, just discarding different people.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that your experience in like your last relationship was a discard?
I wouldn't say it was a discard. I would say he was very dismissive, and we just weren't seeing eye to eye on so many things, and he did a lot of things that were very hurtful, and I could no longer be in that position to keep getting hurt, and I wanted so badly for him to heal, but I couldn't do it for him. Like, I could not. And if you can't even recognize that you need to until it's, he did, and it was too late. It was like, no, you've hurt me enough. I can't.
Right.
And I'm so glad that it played out like that.
Mm-hmm. But that is the tragic loop, right? It's like the cycle just keeps repeating until the person does the internal work, and not just alone, but with Jesus. Yeah.
And if you're with a partner that you keep waiting on them to do the internal work and you keep seeing the best in them, it's so situational, and you have to pray to God about it, but don't wait your whole life for this person to change, because you can't do that to yourself. If they have to want to change for themselves, not for you. And you can't be in that position, because it is so painful, and you truly do deserve someone that is going to love you unconditionally and treat you with love and respect and patience and kindness. And when God, in the Bible, it talks about guarding your heart, it's so important. It's just not a place to be waiting and waiting.
And it's not like, your heart is not something to mess around with, and this is why I feel like this stuff is so fascinating, because it's like, what to kind of look out for. And not just that, like, not only does it help you pick better partners, but it's also like helps you look inwards, because you might be like resonating with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say that, like, even just like hearing all this stuff, you might be able to like recognize it, and I feel like recognizing it is the first step.
Yeah,
because if you don't even know, then how are you supposed to fix it?
So. Right.
Yeah, a lot of people genuinely don't know. They're like, why am I acting like this? I think it probably stems from something in childhood, but they don't actually want to like look into it because it's painful, which I don't blame them. Like it's hard to go down that whole path, but it's so essential if you want to be in a healthy, loving relationship.
Yeah, it's so true. And it just, doing the internal work and like healing the stuff, like you will just naturally pick better people for you, and you'll just be in healthier relationships all around, and you won't settle for anything less than you really deserve. And so it's like the internal work is just, it's so important. But like you said, it's easy to knock off because it's hard. And if it takes vulnerability and you fear that, then it is easier to be like, hey, you know what? This is just kind of how relationships go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And like for the attachment style that you're talking about, it's also I would imagine for someone, it's very painful, but it's fun at the same time because they get to keep being in the honeymoon phase and all these endorphins and oxytocin and the chase of meeting someone, but it's just like this loop, which is
sad. It's really sad. And like it's interesting because they like, for this specific attachment style, it's like we've been talking about, right? Like they want it, and then they literally have to like almost gaslight themselves into believing why like this isn't the right relationship for me and why this isn't the right person for me. But they don't realize what it's actually doing to the other person, right? And then because this is what their mind also starts to do. And it's kind of in like the next phase, but you start to see it in the deactivation phase where they start to like pick apart these like tiny insignificant things about your life, your habits, or your body, right? And they magnify these things. They make them massive, and then they become deal breakers, and it's really just for them to build an exit door. So it's like understanding this stuff is mind blowing, especially when I think like all my relationships have been with a fearful avoidant. Like, why is that? That's something I still have to work through, obviously, but this stuff is very real and it's very painful, and I have so many clients who go through it. And not only do I have so many clients that have experienced being with an avoidant partner, but also I work with a lot of clients who are fearful avoidant themselves. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you, trying to get them to understand themselves is hard. It's because they don't get it, because it's like, but I want this, but then I do that. And it's hard to get them to come back to like, okay, like, so all this stuff I'm talking about today, literally, this is something I would work on for like months. Like, this is like information that like I teach my clients about themselves, and it's kind of all in one podcast episode. There's probably a lot of information in here, but it might be really helpful to even take like notes on this stuff. And we'll even talk at the end of like, how do you learn more about this stuff? Like, what are some sources you can use and stuff like that? Yeah.
When you said that all your relationships have been with fearful avoidant, that would just, signal childhood. It's like your caregivers, your parents, were they fearful avoidant? Because you will repeat what's familiar. You will get into relationships with people that have similar attachment styles, character traits, all of that to your parents, because it's familiar. So being aware of that too, and knowing that you can heal that, and if you're drawn to people like that, being aware and healing that for yourself, and then making the choice of being like, no, I'm just not going down that road. I'm secure myself, taking the time to work on that, and then get into relationship. The relationship I'm in right now, I'm with someone that's secure, and my last relationship before this was with someone that was avoidant, and for me as an anxious person, it's much better now, but it's such a game changer. Like my nervous system is just still like I know I'm safe, but like it's still just like, oh, I can breathe, I'm not gonna get in trouble for this, and I'm not gonna get yelled at for this. And yeah, it feels so nice because that's what I deserve. And
you know, for the
God
anxious
has helped heal my attachment style for sure, and I know he's going to continue. But yeah,
that's so good to hear. And it's like the anxious has such an easier time like being with secure people, right? Because it's like helps regulate your nervous system so much, and secure people are open to your closeness and your vulnerability and your emotion, right? And so then being with a secure person, you start to see like you become more secure because of that.
Yeah, I can like still even now, if there's something, just a way that I'm feeling, that I am like, my heart just starts beating so fast to explain these feelings because of my past. I'm scared that I'm gonna get yelled at, and I'm gonna get told that it's too much, or just a negative response. So it's nice to be in a relationship with a secure person. Like, okay, I'm free to express my thoughts and opinions, even if they're not always positive. But yeah, I'm still getting used to that.
That's so good though. I'm so happy to hear that, because it's like, you know, because I leaned more towards the anxious. I was fearful, but had way more anxious qualities in there. And so for me, because I still had that avoidant part, when a secure partner would come to me, I would run. I would literally be like, I am out of here. Like, because it was terrifying to be like, I can't be what you need me to be. Yeah. I don't know how to be that person, and you're probably going to like hurt me, or I'm going to hurt you. So I actually need to like run. Yeah. But with the anxious, as you can see, they're so drawn to that security. Yeah. So fascinating stuff.
It is.
Okay. So let's just, we'll just go through like the rest of the kind of phases that they go through. And then like, let's kind of like talk about some of this stuff after. So still in the deactivation stage of the fearful avoidant, okay, they really are experiencing like a deep chronic lack of enjoyment and internal emptiness. This is, you know, obviously you can see the low self-esteem, especially in the deactivation stage. And what they do is they use the initial pursuit and obsessiveness to really fill a void inside of themselves. But once they win what they have chased, that fantasy bubble bursts, and the reality of commitment really begins to suffocate them. And because they do not understand that this suffocation is really just their own childhood fear of intimacy, their brain begins to misinterpret the feeling entirely. And their internal panic switch flips, and they begin to convince themselves, if I feel anxious right now, it must mean I'm with the wrong person, because for sure the right relationship will be easy all the time. And then they fall completely into the illusion that a flawless, perfect partner is waiting for them somewhere else, someone who will magically cure their loneliness without ever asking them to do the hard work of emotional vulnerability, exactly like Summer was saying. And they aren't actually running toward a better relationship. They are just running away from the terrifying mirror of a real connection. By constantly chasing a perfect, non-existent ghost, they guarantee that they can stay single, safe, and emotionally disconnected forever. They choose to walk away from a gift that God gave them and return to their lonely, independent comfort zones, because it is easier to live in a joyless routine than it is to grow into the partner that you deserve. And it actually is very, very heartbreaking for obviously both people involved. Okay, so there was something that came up for me that I thought would be interesting to share in this part of this phase. So that night when things were ending between the two of us, he had said to me, I've always liked meeting the person sooner. It's so helpful when you can see them in person. It gives you a lot of information. And yeah, I had to really think about this one, okay? And then my mind kind of unraveled what was really going on here. So obviously the first thing was this was an extremely cold and clinical statement to share with a woman who just shared her life, her heart, and obviously all of these special moments with you. And if he wasn't panicked and like going through that like, like I'm trapped, like he probably wouldn't have said that. And this is why I love just knowing this stuff, because it like takes the blame away from me, right? How easy would it be to blame yourself when somebody said that to you? But really, like, okay, what this was a subconscious way of telling me that this 4-day vacation we had with each other was literally like a data gathering mission for him, where he was actively trying to see what was wrong with me. He unconsciously walked into that weekend already looking for things that were wrong so that he could justify obviously running away. And this happens because when an unstable person or unemotional person is terrified of real closeness, they don't look at you to see how beautiful or secure you are, or really, like, they don't pay attention to what's in front of them. But really, they're looking at you to find the data they need to build that exit door. They turn your real human life into a checklist of flaws just so they can protect themselves from the fear of being exposed or getting too close to you. And I thought that this realization was so interesting for me, because it's like people's language can tell you a lot about them. Mm-hmm. You know, because the wounds drive the show, we unconsciously say things like this, mm-hmm. right?
And when you're dating, if you truly just observe and pay attention to a lot of little things, you learn so much.
You learn so much. And when you understand the psychological blueprint, and really it's 4 attachment styles, when you understand those attachment styles, it's like the things you pay attention to, like, you don't just kind of swipe things under the rug. At least it becomes a lot harder to, mm-hmm. because you can kind of see the wounds and the mechanisms. And it doesn't mean that person is bad. That's not what I'm saying. We're not bad people. None of us are. We're doing the best we know how to do. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that, like, we can still get heartbroken at the end of the day, right? Like, if we're not healing our wounds, we have the chance to hurt other people. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't make us bad. That just means we got to do the work, man.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing this.
Yeah. Well, if I think back to one of the relationships that I was in, talking about the dismissive, if I would have actually paid attention to all the little signs in the beginning and just certain comments and things like that, I could have saved myself a lot of heartbreak, mm-hmm. a lot of time and heartbreak. Mm-hmm. But I was in a place where I just saw the best in that person and saw their potential, mm-hmm. which is a dangerous place.
Right. Yeah, it's a very dangerous place. You really need to pay attention to the language. And I think something else that I have really learned through this is there were definitely moments where my body was like, had so much like anxiety. And it wasn't when I was around him. It was when like he wasn't around me, like going home that day from the airport. And it didn't make sense why I had this anxiety, because I felt so safe with him. Like there was nothing there but my body like blew up anxiety. Mm-hmm. I was having like a panic attack going home that day, and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I prayed enough, it finally stopped, thank goodness. But it's like your body will also tell you, right? Like mm-hmm. if you can't always like decode the language or the unconscious meanings behind some of these things that they say, your body knows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true to just, if your body doesn't feel safe, well, it did feel safe, but at peace and grounded, like there's something to that. And you might not know what that is right away. You might find out later down the road, but there's definitely one of my relationships that I was in, super, not great, toxic. I was just always in fight or flight, and my body odor, like it changed because just this person, we were not a match whatsoever. And that's just one little sign, but there's lots of signs your body will tell you.
Yeah, that's so good. Your body will tell you. I feel like we could make an entire episode of just that alone.
Listening to your body. Yeah. In all the ways. There's so many other ways too.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, let's go into the last kind of phase, okay? So this is like the obviously the last phase, but also the heaviest phase of the cycle. And so it starts with shame, and then it leads to withdrawal, goes into rationalization, which is what we're really going to focus on here, disappearance, and then ultimately the discard. So like I said, shame is one of the driving emotions for a fearful avoidant. If not, it is like the emotion that dictates. It's a wound, right? It dictates almost all of what they do. And because they cannot handle the shame of their own panic, they do begin to disappear. First, they'll disappear emotionally, and then it will be physically. So you'll notice emotionally, they'll become like more distant in texting, right? Not as many phone calls. They'll start keeping you at an arm's distance. And I'm sure so many people listening to this can resonate with this right now. But then they start to really pull away physically. So like those things that should feel good and comforting, right? Like holding their hands, kissing, cuddling, all those things. It becomes a little bit less and less. And it's because the emotional and physical closeness is really triggering a panic in them. And as they feel that panic, they obviously start to withdraw. They rationalize why they need to leave, and then they disappear, and then they discard. And this is the part of their attachment blueprint that gives them their how. So the deactivation is the why, right? The things they're telling themselves, and the how is, how do I actually make this real for myself? So to protect themselves from the horror of what they are doing, they deliver those confusing shame speeches we've all heard, such as, we are not compatible, I can't be what you need, there is so much better out there for me.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me. That's such a good one. I'm unsure of you. The spark is gone. This just doesn't feel good to me anymore. I just can't meet your needs. I've heard that one too.
I'm just not ready for this.
Yeah. But it's like, but what do you mean you're not ready for it? You were just the one who did all of this, not me.
Talking about marriage, talking about kids. Like, your words are powerful.
Yeah. Like, wait, what do you mean? And so hopefully, I really hope this is like making a lot of sense to people as to why this happens. So you're not just sitting in the like, you know, because I know
that can
what a
mess
whiplash.
Someone up.
Oh yeah.
That can mess
yeah,
the person that's on the receiving end of that.
So
just like,
much.
what just happened to me? And if you don't have anyone to talk to about it, you go down this like, believing this narrative about yourself, like, oh, maybe I am not good enough, maybe.
And that's not what's happening, and I just want to make that very, very clear. And okay, one thing I think I actually should have stated at the beginning of this episode is there is a very clear difference between somebody who is a fearful avoidant and a player. Okay, if somebody's a player, you're going to know what they're looking for and what they want. They're going to play some games with you. It's very clear when somebody isn't into you. But the fearful avoidant, the thing is they are actually really into you. And so that is the difference. And that's why it's just so confusing, right? And why it is such a huge emotional whiplash. So all of these things that they are telling themselves is to really, really protect them because they are terrified of love and letting you get close. And instead of saying that to you, they kind of use these ways that they rationalize, right? And then they justify closeness as danger. And this is the greatest line. They see panic as clarity. This is why it is so important for this individual to really understand what their needs are and what's going on internally, because then they can communicate these things and actually know what's going on inside of them instead of mistaking common emotion as danger. This, unfortunately, is really, really how they sabotage, and the majority of the time they do feel the massive regret after, which we'll go into a tiny bit about why that happens. But during the rationalization stage, okay, before they disappear and discard, they are going through something called the flaw finder illusion. And this is where they hyper-focus on your flaws to justify their urge to run away. They will find anything to make leaving look easier than staying. So they will start picking at your appearance, right? And they probably won't be doing this towards you, like to your face. They're doing this behind closed doors, right? They're justifying to themselves why I need to leave. So they'll pick apart your appearance, the way you laugh, the size of your wallet, the way you walk, the way you talk, your family, your cooking, all these things, right? That like a stable, secure partner would look at and not even think about. But this person really has to dig at it, obviously for reasons to keep themselves safe. They will then even invent completely ridiculous lifestyle clashes just to build an exit door. So you will hear things like, well, you like snowmobiling and I like dirt biking, so we're just not compatible. Or I wake up late and you wake up early, so it's never going to work. Okay? So that's what the rationalization is. And what I will say is, obviously, the fearful avoidant themselves is deeply struggling. Somebody who wasn't struggling wouldn't have a blueprint that was doing this to them. But the person on the other side, obviously, this feels like cruel emotional whiplash to them. It literally tells them that you are safe to disposable overnight. And it wasn't that the fearful avoidant picked the wrong person. Again, it's that the moment things got real, their nervous system interrupted the closeness, flagged it as danger, and then called panic clarity. Okay? There was something I read the other day, and it said this. It was so good. It said, God's gifts don't take away the identity you built while suffering was all you knew. It challenges that identity. That's why being blessed can feel so overwhelming, and why it's easy to think, maybe this just isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so if the fearful avoidant does not let God do the internal healing work, then this exact cycle will continue. They're going to obsess, then they're going to get close, the stakes get high, they panic, they find flaws and doubts, they run, and then the abandonment wound kicks in. But really, they didn't give you a choice other than to leave. But again, we're going to take actions that align with our wounds. Okay, and then after this, they regret. Because the fear fades and they can't lie to themselves anymore. The rationalization, the flaw finder in them, and the deactivation strategies come to an end eventually. And they more often than not begin to obsess about the person they walked away from. It's very sad, and really it's like a tragic love story. Okay, and sometimes when they do act out the discard, they will try to keep you in their life. This is where the tragic split in their wiring happens right before your eyes. It's the anxious part of them suddenly becoming terrified of total abandonment again and doesn't want to fully let you go, but then their avoidant side is still completely switched on. So what they do is they try to create a middle ground that only serves them. They want to keep you at an arm's length, stay entirely uncommitted, yet they still want access to your energy, your voice, and your love. And this is what breadcrumbs is called, okay? They will suggest taking it slow or say, I still want to continue to talk. Or they're going to send you texts on like milestones, on birthdays, holidays, all those things, just to see if you will still answer. They want the rewards of your presence without the responsibility of actually being the person that they know you deserve. So, okay, last part of D-talking, because D's talked a lot already. But I want you to really hear me out, okay? If you are on the opposite end of this, if you're going through this right now, I want you to know that you are an amazing person, okay? You are not a casual option to fix someone else's loneliness. You deserve so much more than that. And all of these things that you were told are not objective truths about your worth. They are simply shame speeches. And they do not mean you are not a great person. And it does not mean that you are not enough, that you are unworthy, or any of that. Okay? It doesn't even mean that you weren't the right partner for them. What they actually mean by all of this is that loving you confronts a part of them that they are too afraid to face. And when they leave, they are really saying, I am not the partner I want to be, and I cannot handle the shame of my own inability to love you.
That's good.
This is Summer's face. Yeah, there's a lot there, obviously. And yeah, I just think it's some really, really fascinating stuff. For me, learning about this stuff really, really helped me to just like, I guess, get over it. Like to just realize that it's not my fault. Like all those things that I was saying about myself and talking about myself, that wasn't actually me. It was like, it was them. It was their own pain that was running the show. And so, yeah. And I guess, I mean, I've done a lot of talking. I might as well do just a little bit more, but I'll share quickly about how, I went from fearful avoidant to secure and kind of what that looks like now. Okay. So yeah, I had a huge fearful avoidant attachment style, and it destroyed me. Like it destroyed my relationships. It destroyed my self-esteem. And you know what? While I was like kind of living out this insecure attachment style, I didn't even really realize what was happening. I didn't start learning about this stuff until like 2020. But looking back, I'm like, holy smokes, were you one toxic individual who hurt yourself and so many people down the road.
Well, it's just so normal that you're not you're not aware.
Not aware at all.
Repeating the cycle.
No.
And especially when you mix things to distract yourself, like drugs and alcohol and other people, you're not going to heal.
No.
Like literally only God can fill that void and help heal you.
Yeah. It's so true. And it's like, that was the number one thing. Like, I didn't actually realize that my attachment style, like the patterns, like just the way I thought and the way I handled things, it was like last year, at like the beginning of the last year when I was seeing Johnny. That's when I recognized, like, oh, wait.
I remember
I've healed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so that. When I got baptized, which was 2023, it was like July 2023. So that was like, let's say a year and a half, roughly. That's how long it took for Jesus to do that work. It only took a year and a half. And I tried to heal my attachment style on my own before. But it just never worked.
It only goes so far.
Yeah.
Like you can heal, you can kind of temporarily, maybe. But yeah, in my experience, it's not full healing.
No, because like, yes, he gave us a subconscious mind to be rewired, but should we be doing that ourselves? Can we even fully do that ourselves? Because it actually says in the Bible, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So what does that tell us, right? It's him who's doing that work. And I loved in church on Sunday when Susan had talked about the surrendering to the transformation. That was so well spoken, the way she put that, because I'm like, man, was that ever my testimony with this? Like, I had to let Jesus do the work. I had to stay single because I couldn't be in a relationship. I didn't want to keep doing this to people or myself. I went through Freedom Session. So that is like the 12-step program, right? Healing with Jesus Christ. There's so much just like forgiveness in there, and it's just so many different types of like biblical truth to heal with. I actually did that course twice. And then, so yeah, obviously Jesus, number one, all the way, like on my feet, on my knees every night, just coming to him and crying and all these things. Another thing that I did was I made amends with the people that I've hurt. One of the biggest people that I made amends with was my ex. And obviously that wasn't fun. I didn't want to do that. And it hurt when I got that message back. But boy, was it like I was delivered from something when I did do that. Another part of this is recognizing that so much of what we experience is spiritual. It's not just physical, it is spiritual. And Ephesians 6:12 talks about that, right? And so we might think that like it is anxiety when really it's a spirit of fear. Or we might think that it is avoidance when really it's a spirit of pride. And so a huge part of me becoming secure was also like delivering myself from just these different, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, feelings of not being good enough, all of those things, and just actively bringing them to Jesus. And also recognizing, this was a big part of that, recognizing that the enemy loves to go after relationships. He loves to go after relationships because that is like the entire point of existence. Jesus said the two most important commandments are to love God and then love people. Why would the enemy not go after your relationships? He loves to make you feel like you aren't enough, like you aren't lovable, and like you aren't worthy. And he knows how to activate your wounds. And so he's going to do that. And then he's going to wait for you to act on those wounds. And so recognizing that's what the enemy loves, and Jesus literally brought us into this world for relationship with him and relationship with other people. In my mind, it was like, this is so important to God that I cannot sabotage this anymore. And so I guess there were a bunch of things: podcasts, books, the courses, therapy, obviously journaling was huge. That's
a big outlet for me.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah. Especially when you look back at, a year ago or even a month ago to see how far you've come. It's sometimes you feel like you're doing a lot of work and you're not really getting anywhere. But that's something for me when I look back. Oh my gosh, I've actually come so far. Wow. Thank you, God.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, journaling is such a big one. And there were just active, intentional daily steps to, of course, do these things, not all at once. It was baby steps, but to also like really lean on Christians and lean on the community that God has given me. Obviously that really, really helped as well. And just like constantly catching my thoughts and behaviors, that was such a big part of this. And it's like, when you take that first step, God will do the rest. But he wants, like, he will come in with the supernatural. In fact, he wants to come in with the supernatural, but you need to do the work first. He's not just going to come in and do it for you. And so that's why the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? Take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ, and then be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so that was huge. And it's like actually being really intentional about that. I'll give you a story of kind of what this looked like for me, okay? So I will say, when it comes to becoming secure, when it comes to healing this attachment style, it's not like the wounds ever fully go away, okay? My patterns still pop up. They still want to pop up. My brain wants to tell me the same things. Like, that doesn't ever fully go away. But you know that you have kind of made it when you can say no to that, when you can choose differently instead of like those patterns controlling you. So when I was telling Summer, I don't know if I told you, Kayla and Marissa, about this, but one night we recorded a podcast episode, and I had so much anxiety this day, okay? I woke up that morning telling myself, I'm going to stop talking to Jay. I'm going to stop. And there was no reason for me to feel like this. And as you can see, this is a fearful avoidant pattern, right? This is a mechanism they use. And so that I'm like, I'm going to do it. But I didn't do it because I was like, I don't want to do it. Why are these thoughts here? Right. And so we had recorded an episode that night, and I left your guys' house, and I was so anxious. And I was mad because I kept hearing this voice telling me, there's something better out there for you. Don't you see? There's something better out there. I have better for you. And I was so annoyed that these things were just bombarding me. And so anyways, I pulled my truck over after I left, and I had just prayed to God. And I said, God, like, why? Why is this here? And instantly he brought to my mind, because you are so afraid to get hurt. You are trying to sabotage right now. And when I recognized that, I was like, oh, and it's like, I've known this, but like, I didn't know it in that moment, you know? And so anyways, I recognized what it was, and I was like, oh, this is spiritual. Like, this isn't just my brain doing funny things on me. Like, this is spiritual. So I started to rebuke, and I started to deliver myself, and it was like instantly all of it went away. Wow. It was just gone. And then I had like this overwhelming sense of just peace from God. And you know what I was telling myself that day is, but Jay doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve my patterns. He doesn't deserve my old mechanisms, right? And that is how I knew I became secure. Yeah. Because it's like, maybe my patterns tried to bring me back, but it was like, no. Like, I have something so good in front of me right now. I will not mess this up. God has turned me into a person who will never be that person again. And so I need to do something differently. And I think that's what it means to actually become secure.
That's so powerful, though.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So good.
You should be proud of yourself.
Yeah, you really should.
I'm so proud of how you've dealt with this, and just seeing how much courage you have to actually know your worth. And when you see those signs and those patterns, and just being so aware, and obviously it caused a lot of pain, but you had a choice. You could have, kept him in your life and tried to make it work or see the best in him, but you know your worth. And a big part of that is your relationship with God.
Oh yeah.
And him guiding your steps. But it's not easy. Like, you've put a lot of time and effort into where you are today, and that's something to be really proud of.
Yeah, I agree. Even like after we were talking about this last week or wherever it was, I had the same thought. Like, after I left, I was like, wow, like, I'm so proud of her for actually recognizing her worth and what she deserves. Like, that's hard to do about yourself, but yeah, really
it is. And like, especially with the topic that we went into today, like, it was literally like, there is something wrong with you. Like there's better out there for me.
And having that told like basically directly to you, and to not take that on, like that's impressive, honestly.
That's like, what? How did I do that? And it's like, but it wasn't me. It's
exactly.
God. This is the power God gives you. And okay, and so this is what I also will say. This is why this relationship with God, like, your soul needs to be on fire for God, because when your soul is on fire, it's like your life is on fire. Your soul, like everything is just so good, and you can go through this heartbreak, yet you're so okay, and you've got these amazing things happening in your relationships and all around you and all these things. And it's like, okay, with my ex, I feel like when we broke up, I actually did like that fearful avoidant thing where I like told myself all the reasons. I rationalized why it had to end, and it was such a way to make myself feel better, because I had so much shame and guilt about what I did in that relationship and to him. And this went on for years, okay? And it was like, I want to say about 2 years, until I was actually able to drop it and be like, hey dude, you messed up, like you gotta admit it. But this time around, it's like I didn't even the way I handled it when he was saying these things to me, you know, like I'm looking at his gift that I was literally about to send him the next day, and he's saying these things to me, and I blessed him. I didn't try to bless him. It just naturally happened. And so it's like seeing the ways that and the way that I'm handling it and I have no ill will. I don't need to lie to myself about this guy. I know he knows. There's no doubt in my mind, and I pray that he learns from this and doesn't fall back into those old loops. But the thing is, I know my worth, I know my value, I know the identity God has given me. And so now it's like, not just that, but you know, when you do the work and he comes in with the supernatural, he changes the way you think, he changes the way you feel, he changes what you see. And so now I can experience the same heartbreak that I experienced 4 years ago, but be a completely different person in it, and like pray for him, you know. And I pray for him so much. Like I refuse to speak any type of death or negativity over him, or like, you know, even put out there that, oh well, he did this and he did that, so he's a bad person and he broke me. Like no. He doesn't need that, actually. He needs life spoken over him and positivity, right? I pray protection and just safety and peace and just all of these things that I know he is struggling so much in the relationship with himself and in the relationship with God. And it's like, thank you, God, that this is not my burden. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's so hard for me to have the words. I didn't think that a heartbreak like this I would ever be okay through, or just be able to sit here and even talk about it like this. But I cannot stress enough how much it is the relationship with the Creator, it is the relationship with Jesus that is going to heal any insecurity, any void, any attachment style you are struggling with, or whether you are anxious or whether you are fearful or dismissive, whatever it is Jesus. And it's not going to be anything you do in your own life. It is only Jesus.
Well, that was like a lot of really good information, and I hope whoever's listening to this really got something out of it. And this has been Real Life, Real Talk. Bye.